Vaydiel Yitzchak Olah Sarah Imo. And Isaac brought Sarah into the tent of his mother. Vayikach et Rivka, and he took her for a wife, and she became his wife. And he took her, meaning he took her to be his wife. And then it says, Vaye'ehaveha, and then he loved her. Strange. I mean, certainly falling on the ears of modern day romance, one knows that you first fall in love, and then you contemplate marriage. But to contemplate marriage first, and then find out you love her, just doesn't seem to fit in to the psyche of this modern day and age. But again, what does it say? He brought her into the tent of his mother. What does that teach us? It teaches us the difference between love based on the physical reality, which involves emotion, which involves psyche. But for so many, after the marriage, you know what they say about that? You want to kill a good romance? Get married. But then afterwards, somehow they have a fallout. How do you explain that? What happened? What happened to this beautiful, beautiful romance that culminated in the subsequent marriage? What happened to that? Where did it disappear? And certainly we don't ask that question today, but we should, because this is bringing to our attention. Now we're talking about true love in this. What do you mean by true love? True love, if you're referring to the expression of the warmth, the excitement, the desires that become aroused, the chemistry is so wonderful. My friends, that is not, according to this verse, a sign of love. On the contrary, a sign of love is something so subtle. Just know it's there. You don't feel nothing. You just know you don't want to be without this person for one moment. Whether this person is in front of you, whether that person is now expressing things that you are so comfortable with. Brought her into this tent. After he brought her into this tent, he then realized that the candle that had always been lit in the tent of Sarah, says the Zohar, had gone out when Sarah passed away. And when Rivka was brought into this tent by Isaac, and he contemplated in taking her for a wife, for he knew when that candle was ignited, he knew the spirit of what Sarah represented, the spirit of unity, the spirit of sharing, of caring. These were the aspects that Isaac sought. These are the aspects that today, before people contemplate marriage, should be in that area of you feel unified. Sure, we may disagree. Sure, we may have arguments. Sure, we may not always come to the same conclusions. Has that in any way affected the unity between us? Has that in any way altered the feeling of wanting to be together? Forget the emotion, which of course is very much on a physical level. When he realized, and the sign was that candle lit up again because it reminded Isaac about who his mother was, representing unity, representing the oneness in this entire universe. And he knew if this was not a woman with that same consciousness, And this was not the woman for him. It's consciousness. It's not, which is again on another level. It's not physical. Consciousness, you can't use your five senses to measure. But on that level, the sharing, the caring, the feeling of that this universe should be one, for it was intended to be one, rather than constantly the strife, the war, that has been the landscape of every generation, irrespective of how he might have felt with the chemistry, with the emotional feelings. He knew that to sustain this marriage, and that ultimately the love that would generate between the two would be a love based on that principle of unity, feeling, experiencing the diversity, and yet always coming back to that same idea that we are one. If that doesn't exist, and I say, mind you, irrespective of disagreements, irrespective of not seeing the same thing only through one eye, that is not a sign of true love. For we know ahov, Ahava is that aspect of 13, which is echad, one. That is true love. You feel the unity with the individual, not how you feel with the chemistry. And I'm not saying that the chemistry doesn't mesh. Forget, that you still should go. No, those other aspects are important. I'm not here to entirely minimize their importance. But certainly what is more important is how these two people feel about the closeness which manifests itself as unity, as oneness. That is true love.
There's a story of this man who was a bank robber. And sure enough, they're robbing a bank and they're about to run out. He's got this money on his hands and the cops see him outside and he gets shot. And we fast forward. And he's standing supposedly in the gates of upstairs. And he meets this wonderful angel that comes to him and he says to him, "I'm your angel. I'm your messenger. I'm sort of like your genie. Anything you want, you just ask me and you get it." He says, "Wow, hey, this is great. You know what? I want to have alcohol. I want to have women. I want to have orgy. I want to have the best time I've ever had in my life." Done. Finds himself around with gorgeous women, a lot of alcohol, plenty of music, and he's partying one day, 2 days, 3 days. He says, "Wait a second." He says, "Something's missing here. I'm done with this. I want to try something else." He says, "Sure." He says, "What do you want to do?" He says, "You know what? I think I want to rob a bank." He says, "Great, no problem." He says, "What do you mean no problem?" He says, "Pick the day and the time in the bank and go right in and rob it." He says, "Wait a second, you don't understand. That's not the way it works. You don't have to know what time or where it's going to be." He says, "There's not the charge in that. I got to do it myself. They got to have the cops follow me. I got to be worried. I'm going to get caught. I got to get the adrenaline running." He says, "Oh, well, I'm sorry. That doesn't happen here." He says, "What do you mean that doesn't happen here?" He says, "Here you get whatever you want, but there are no strings attached. You want ice cream, it's yours. You want women, it's yours. You want sex, it's yours. Whatever you want, you get." He says, "I don't like this place. I want to go to hell." He says, "Where do you think you are?" Shabbat Shalom.